Good evening, dear listeners, and a very warm welcome to you all. Wherever you are tuning in from tonight, maybe cozied up in bed, listening from your favorite quiet corner at home, or perhaps relaxing somewhere peaceful with the world fading away outside. I'm so glad you've joined me here. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Maybe pull the covers up a bit higher and feel the day gently slip away. Let the story begin. The ancient spires of St. Anselm's College, Oxford, were the perfect stage for tragedy. Elegant, refined, every guest playing their role beneath the whispering elms in the candle-lit gardens. Then Sir Basil Harrington was found dead among the elms. A silver prop dagger from the evening's private performance buried deep in his chest. Police saw a simple case of robbery by some desperate town intruder. But Hercule Poirot saw a performance. Someone in this theatre of wealth and academia was playing a role. The role of innocent, the role of murderer. The curtain rises. Chapter 1. The stage is set. The stage was set with Art Deco precision under the soft glow of Oxford's June twilight. Polished mahogany tables gleamed beneath crystal chandeliers in the Master's Lodge drawing room, their surfaces reflecting the warm light like mirrors in a grand theatre. Beyond the tall French windows, the college gardens unfolded as a velvet backdrop, ancient elms standing sentinel, while hothouse lilies and roses filled the air with their heavy perfume. The scent mingled with the rich aroma of Cuban cigar smoke drifting from the men's corner, and the delicate sweetness of Worth perfume rising from silk evening gowns. The footsteps echoed crisply on parquet floors as the cast of characters gathered for the gala, celebrating Sir Basil Harrington's generous endowment to the new theatre pavilion. Sir Basil himself had played the generous patron to perfection earlier that evening. He laughed heartily during the one-act play, The Elm Grove Secret, toasted the actors with dry champagne that sparkled in smooth crystal glasses, and then, claiming the need for air, strolled alone into the elm grove. Now his body lay among the ancient trees, the silver-prop dagger still lodged in his chest, his evening shirt stained dark against the cold marble steps leading from the terrace. The grandfather clock in the lodge chimed 10, its deep notes mingling with the distant tinkling of crystal chandeliers and the soft rustle of silk. You watch with Poirot, no? And to observe how the drama has already begun without its director. Lady Constance Harrington, Sir Basil's elegant wife, swept in from the terrace wrapped in a silk gown that rustled like distant piano music. Her cologne of sandalwood lingered in the warm drawing room as she performed the shocked widow, dabbing at her eyes with a crisp linen napkin. Yet her hands trembled just enough to seem convincing while her voice held no true break. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? The mask slips. Did you catch it? Dr. Marcus Langley, the playwright and rival academic, stood too still beside the fireplace, the crackle of logs masking the faint chill night air that crept through the open doors. His rough tweed jacket carried the faint scent of wood smoke from the terrace, and his steady gaze never wavered. Too perfect, too rehearsed, and our truth stumbles. Lies flow smooth. Ask yourself, why does this scholar avoid the spot where the body was found? Miss Evelyn Drake, Sir Basil's young secretary, clutched a glass of sweet liqueur near the champagne tray. Her kid gloves creaked softly as she twisted them, the leather smooth against her nervous fingers. She spoke of her employer's last words about feeling unwell after the second act. Yet her eyes darted away when the prop dagger was mentioned. Consider the psychology. What role does this young woman need to play? Colonel Arthur Blount, the old army friend, paced near the velvet curtains, his footsteps heavy on the parquet. The scent of strong continental coffee from a nearby tray mixed with his own faint cigar smoke as he performed the bluff old soldier. His alibi placed him in the billiard room, but the rough texture of his tweed seemed untouched by the cold terrace air that still clung to others. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice how his pacing slows whenever the police inspector glances his way. Mr. Philip Voss, the play's director, hovered by the polished mahogany sideboard, his helpful smile a little too wide as he offered more champagne. The cork had popped loudly at the exact minute of the murder, yet he spoke smoothly of the evening's success. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head, green eyes gleaming with satisfaction, and adjusted his moustache with precision. The police inspector arrived in a flurry of official questions, his boots clicking coldly on the marble threshold, when he saw only a botched theft by some desperate intruder from town. Hercule Poirot, invited as honored guest by the master, an old Belgian acquaintance, saw the theater of crime unfolding in full. He smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve and made an expressive gesture with his small hands. Order and method, he murmured to the inspector. But first, let us watch the actors. This crime, it has the scent of rehearsal. Poirot arranged a few objects on a side table symmetrically: the silver ashtray, the crystal decanter, the leather-bound program, before turning to the assembled cast. The warm drawing room felt charged now, the fire's crackle adding to the tension, while rain began to patter lightly on the windows outside. The psychology. It is everything, he said softly. To Hercule Poirot is not deceived by such theatre. Let us apply the director method to the leading lady. The performance. Lady Constance weeps, yes. The handkerchief dabs at the eyes. The shoulders shake appropriately. The tell, yet observe, the handkerchief remains perfectly dry. The mascara does not run. The performance of grief, it is technically perfect. Too perfect. The psychology, I am reminded of the Ackroyd affair, where a man performed shock so convincingly that even I, Hercule Poirot, was momentarily deceived. He had rehearsed in mirrors, practiced the widening of eyes, the dropping of the jaw. But he made one error. He reached for his cigarette case too steadily. A man truly shocked does not have steady hands. The body, it knows the truth even when the face lies. And this is what the little grey cells understand, the psychology beneath the performance. The truth. Therefore, this woman knew of the death before she was told. Her grief is costume, not feeling. You see it now, no? The theatre crumbles, the tension rises. Someone will break character soon. Poirot drew himself up to full height, still small yet commanding, and surveyed the room once more. Fresh flowers on the mantel released their lily scent as the chill from the terrace fought the fire's warmth. Leather chairs creaked under shifting weight, and the faint taste of bitter medicine lingered on someone's breath from nerves. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot, he sees behind the masks. The stage was set. The players assembled. Let the drama begin. Chapter 2. Enter the players' formal interviews, unfolded like carefully staged scenes in the small morning room of the master's lodge. The air carried the rich scent of strong continental coffee, steaming in delicate porcelain cups, mingling with lingering hothouse lilies and the faint trace of sandalwood cologne from the previous evening. Polished mahogany desks gleamed under soft lamplight, while velvet armchairs cradled each suspect in turn. Beyond the tall windows, rain pattered gently on the glass, a steady rhythm against the warm drawing room hush. Hercule Poirot directed from a high-backed chair, his small hands arranging a silver pencil and leather notebook with symmetrical precision. Lady Constance Harrington entered first, her silk gown rustling softly like distant piano notes. She performed the grieving widow with polished sorrow, undabbing a crisp linen napkin at eyes that remained suspiciously dry. "My Basil was everything to me," she declared, voice steady as the grandfather clock chimed 11 in the hall. Yet her gaze flicked once towards the garden doors. "Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? The mask slips. Did you catch it?" Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head and touched his magnificent moustache thoughtfully. "You watch with Poirot, no? Observe how the handkerchief stays perfect. Real grief would leave its mark." Dr. Marcus Langley followed, playing the loyal colleague with scholarly warmth. His rough tweed jacket still carried the faint wood smoke scent from the terrace fire, and he spoke smoothly of the play's success and Sir Basil's endowment. Hands rested steady on the mahogany desk, fingers never trembling. Too perfect, too rehearsed. Truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. Ask yourself, why does this academic's foot tap once beneath the table when the prop dagger is mentioned? Poirot made an expressive gesture with small hands. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice the missed cue. Loyalty does not rehearse its lines quite so well. Miss Evelyn Drake arrived next, performing the devoted secretary with downcast eyes and trembling shoulders. She clutched a glass of sweet liqueur, the crystal cool against her kid gloves that creaked faintly with each twist. He felt unwell. After the second act, she whispered, voice soft as the velvet curtains stirring in the draught. Consider the psychology. What role does this young woman need to play? Her alibi placed her in the dressing room. Yet when Poirot asked about the will papers, her gloved fingers tightened until the leather protested. The tension rises. Someone will break character soon. Colonel Arthur Blount strode in like the bluff old soldier he claimed to be, cigar smoke trailing him in a thin blue veil. He paced the parquet floor, heavy footsteps echoing against the crackle of a small fire in the grate. His rough tweed felt warm from the room's fire, yet his face stayed cool in the chill memory of the terrace night air. "I was in the billiard room the whole time," he boomed, but his pacing slowed whenever the inspector's notes were consulted. "If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence?" Poirot smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve. "Bravo. But the performance, it was not convincing. The body, it forgets no lines." Mr. Philip Voss, the play's director, entered last, hovering near the champagne tray, as if still directing the evening. His helpful smile stretched wide, teeth flashing in the warm light, while he praised Sir Basil's patronage and offered more coffee. The cork from last night's bottle still sat on the sideboard, its pop remembered by servants at the fatal minute. This actor plays helpfulness, but observe the eyes. Where is the moisture of true regret? Poirot arranged the objects on the table symmetrically once more, green eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Ah, but you say Poirot reads too much into small gestures. Bear with me. The psychology, it is everything." Each interview built the drama scene by scene. Contradictions appeared as missed cues. Lady Constance's perfect knowledge of the dagger's angle, Dr. Langley's too steady hands when describing the grove, Miss Evelyn's sap-stained glove, mentioned only in passing. Colonel Blount's military bluffness cracked when the billiard room clock was checked against the murder time. Mr. Voss's smooth direction faltered when the hidden letter in the fireplace was hinted at. The warm room grew charged, coffee cooling in untouched cups, while the rain outside tapped like impatient applause. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot. He sees behind the masks. Poirot leaned forward, voice low and precise. Observe, mon ami. This suspect plays their role too perfectly. The mask slips. Did you see it? He drew himself up slightly in the velvet chair. The scent of fresh flowers on the mantel mixed with the bitter edge of medicine someone had taken for nerves. And the chill from the terrace doors fought the fire's comforting warmth. A silk rustled as Lady Constance shifted. Kid gloves creaked once more, and the chandelier crystals tinkled faintly overhead with a draught. We approach the final act. Have you identified the true performer? The players had entered. Each had taken their mark. But who played truth and who performed lies? Chapter 3. The first act. Deeper investigation began at first light, when the college gardens still lay under a veil of chill night air. Poirot walked the elm grove with the inspector, polished shoes crunching softly on fallen leaves, while the faint scent of crushed foliage mingled with lingering wood smoke from the terrace fire. The silver-propped dagger had left a precise wound, yet the ground showed only one set of footprints leading away. Lady Constance's elegant evening shoes, their kid leather now muddied. Footsteps on the soft earth echoed the previous night's parquet clicks, and the distant grandfather clock chimed 6, its notes carried on the breeze like a faint curtain call. Observe, mon ami, this suspect plays their role too perfectly. The mask slipped when Lady Constance was questioned again beside the velvet curtains in the warm drawing room. Fresh coffee steamed in strong continental cups, its rich aroma clashing with the sweet hothouse lilies on the mantel. She mentioned the exact depth and angle of the dagger before any report had reached her. I simply assumed, she said, voice smooth as silk, rustling in her gown. The handkerchief remained dry once more, mascara untouched. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? The mask slips. Did you catch it? Poirot adjusted his moustache with precision, green eyes gleaming. On Dr. Marcus Langley's scholarly calm was tested next in the library, where leather-bound books and furniture wax scented the air. His alibi of the billiard room, held until the distant piano music, heard by servants, was timed against the murder. His rough tweed jacket still carried the terrace chill, yet his hands stayed too steady on the polished mahogany, too perfect, too rehearsed. Truth stumbles. Lies flow smooth. Ask yourself, why does this academic avoid the grove entirely? Poirot made an expressive gesture with small hands. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice the missed cue. Miss Evelyn Drake's devoted secretary performance strained in the morning room, kid gloves creaking as she twisted them around a glass of sweet liqueur. She spoke of typing late papers, yet elm sap stained one glove's palm, a detail she dismissed with a trembling shoulder. Consider the psychology. What role does this young woman need to play? The tension rises. Someone will break character soon. Colonel Arthur Blount paced once more, cigar smoke trailing, his bluff soldier roll cracking when the billiard clock contradicted his timing. Mr. Philip Voss hovered helpfully, but his smile froze when the hidden fireplace letter was mentioned. Poirot gathered small facts like a director noting props. The prop dagger had vanished from the dressing area exactly at the second act interval. Lady Constance's sandalwood cologne had been detected near the body by the gardener's dog. Dr. Langley's plagiarism notes lay half-burned in the study grate, the paper edges crisp as the chill outside. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot, he sees behind the masks. The warm drawing room felt smaller now. Rain pattering on windows, while fire crackled and crystal chandeliers tinkled faintly overhead. Reflection. Humans wear masks because the stage of life demands flawless performances. Grief must appear as perfect tears, loyalty as unwavering eyes, ambition as modest smiles beneath Art Deco chandeliers. Lady Constance's knowledge of the dagger's depth was no accident. It was a line spoken too early, a crack in the costume of the grieving widow. Why do we perform rather than feel? Fear of judgment, greed disguised as devotion, pride that refuses to admit relief at a husband's death. Society applauds the role, never the raw truth beneath. In drawing rooms and Oxford groves alike, the mask hides the trembling hand, the dry handkerchief, the steady voice that should break. I am reminded of the Ackroyd affair, where a man performed shock so convincingly that even I, Hercule Poirot, was momentarily deceived. He had rehearsed in mirrors for hours, practicing the widening of eyes, the dropping of the jaw, the exact pitch of horrified gasp. Every gesture was timed, every pause perfected, until the drawing room audience believed him utterly. But he made one fatal error. When the news came, he reached for his cigarette case with hands that never trembled. A man truly shocked does not possess steady fingers. The body rebels against the lie, even when the face obeys. The little grey cells understand this psychology beneath the performance. The small betrayals that no rehearsal can erase. That case taught me how the theatre of crime collapses when one line is delivered ahead of its cue. The universal truth. Deception always requires effort, while truth simply exists. Lies flow smooth only until the spotlight of truth grows too bright and the actor forgets the script. Theatrical wisdom for you, mon ami. Watch the hands when the voice speaks, the eyes when the smile appears, the breath between rehearsed words. The first mask had cracked under Poirot's direction. More would follow. The first mask cracked. More would follow. Chapter 4. Rehearsed Lines. Poirot began the pressure in the sunlit library of the Master's Lodge, where strong continental coffee steamed in delicate cups, and the faint scent of furniture wax mingled with hothouse lilies wilting on the mantel. Polished mahogany shelves gleamed under the warm afternoon light, velvet curtains drawn just enough to soften the chill terrace air that still lingered from the night before. He arranged a few scattered papers symmetrically on the desk, green eyes gleaming as he turned to Lady Constance. Your script of the devoted widow, madame. It begins to show, it seems. Lady Constance sat in a leather armchair, silk gown rustling as she crossed her legs, the crisp linen napkin still clutched in one hand. She repeated her lines about shock and sorrow, voice smooth as the crystal decanter beside her, yet her sandalwood cologne seemed sharper now, almost offensive. The grandfather clock chimed twice in the hall, its notes echoing against the soft crackle of the fire. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? Poirot smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve. You knew the dagger's depth and angle before the doctor spoke. That line was not in the police report? None. Dr. Marcus Langley entered next. Rough tweed jacket, still carrying the faint wood smoke from yesterday's terrace. He played the loyal scholar with steady hands on the mahogany desk, alibi of the billiard room flowing like rehearsed dialogue. Yet his foot tapped once beneath the table when Poirot mentioned the half-burned plagiarism notes found in the grate. Too perfect, too rehearsed, truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. Ask yourself, why does this academic's voice rise when the timing of the distant piano music is checked against the murder? Poirot made an expressive gesture with small hands. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice how the script falters when the props are examined. Miss Evelyn Drake followed, kid gloves creaking, as she twisted them around a glass of sweet liqueur that tasted bitter on her tongue. She performed the innocent secretary with trembling shoulders and downcast eyes, claiming she had stayed in the dressing room throughout the second act. The elm sap stain on her palm had been cleaned, but the leather still bore the faint trace. Consider the psychology. What role does this young woman need to play? Her alibi cracked when servants recalled her footsteps on the parquet, heading toward the grove, exactly at the interval. The tension rises. Someone will break character soon. Colonel Arthur Blount paced the room like a caged soldier, and her heavy footsteps thudding on the parquet floor while cigar smoke curled lazily towards the crystal chandelier. He boomed his lines about the billiard room and old army friendship, yet the chill night air memory made his rough tweed feel suddenly heavy. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head. Bravo, but the performance, it was not convincing. The clock in the billiard room runs 3 minutes slow. Your script forgot that small detail, Colonel. Mr. Philip Voss arrived last, hovering near the champagne tray, as though still directing the evening's gala. His helpful smile stretched wide, teeth flashing in the warm firelight, while he offered more coffee, whose rich aroma filled the room. The cork from the fatal bottle still sat on the sideboard, its pop remembered by every servant, and this actor plays helpfulness. But observe the eyes. Where is the moisture of true regret? Poirot drew himself up slightly in his chair. Ah, but you say, Poirot reads too much into small gestures. Bear with me. The hidden letter in the fireplace speaks louder than your smooth direction. Each suspect's performance grew strained under the spotlight. Lady Constance's dry handkerchief twisted tighter, silk rustling with every uneasy shift. Dr. Langley's steady hands finally trembled when the plagiarism notes were placed before him on the polished table. Miss Evelyn's kid gloves creaked louder as she denied the sap stain, voice cracking like the cold marble steps outside. Colonel Blount's pacing slowed to a halt, cigar ash falling unnoticed onto the velvet rug. Mr. Voss's smile froze entirely when the bribe for silence was hinted at, his helpful mask slipping for the first time. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot, he sees behind the masks. The warm drawing room felt smaller, charged with the scent of wilting lilies, lingering cigar smoke, and the bitter edge of medicine taken for frayed nerves. Rain pattered steadily on the windows, a soft counterpoint to the grandfather clock's steady chime and the distant rustle of silk and leather. Fire warmth battled the chill terrace draught, creeping under the doors, while smooth crystal glasses stood untouched, their champagne long flat. We approach the final act. Have you identified the true performer? Poirot observed each small betrayal. The dry eyes, the tapping foot, the creaking glove, the slowed pace, the frozen smile. Rehearsed lines began to falter. The script was failing. To Chapter 5, The Mask Slips. The major confrontation unfolded in the drawing room as rain pattered steadily on the tall windows and the fire crackled with fresh logs. Poirot had summoned Lady Constance, Dr. Marcus Langley and Miss Evelyn Drake together under the crystal chandelier, its soft tinkling mixing with the distant grandfather clock striking 4. Strong continental coffee steamed in porcelain cups on the polished mahogany table, its rich aroma battling the sweet hothouse lilies that now wilted in the warm air. The chill terrace draught still crept beneath the velvet curtains, making the room feel smaller, more intimate, like the final scene before the interval. The stage was charged. Someone would forget their lines. Miss Evelyn Drake entered last, her kid gloves creaking as she clutched a glass of sweet liqueur that tasted bitter on her tongue. She performed the devoted secretary with trembling shoulders and downcast eyes, silk blouse rustling softly against the leather armchair. Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head, green eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Observe, mon ami, this performance of innocence. It has been perfect too long. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? The mask slips. Did you catch it? Poirot made an expressive gesture with small hands, arranging the silver prop dagger replica symmetrically beside the coffee tray. Miss Drake, you spoke of typing late papers in the dressing room, yet the elm sap on your glove, it matches the grove exactly. And the new will you typed, cutting out the nephew, lay half-burned in the study grate. Her face stayed composed at first, voice smooth as the crisp linen napkin she twisted. Too perfect, too rehearsed. Truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. Ask yourself, why does she avoid his eyes when the timing of the second act interval is mentioned? Lady Constance shifted in her silk gown, sandalwood cologne sharpening in the warm room, while Dr. Langley's rough tweed jacket carried the faint wood smoke from yesterday's fire. The colonel and director waited outside, their alibis already strained. Poirot smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve. You see, but you do not observe the performance. The body, it knows the truth even when the voice rehearses. Consider the psychology. What role does this young woman need to play? The tension rises, and someone will break character soon. Miss Evelyn's shoulders began to shake, but this time the tears were real, mascara streaking at last down her pale cheeks. The kid gloves fell away as she covered her face, a raw sob escaping that no rehearsal could fake. He promised me everything, she whispered, voice cracking like the cold marble steps outside. The marriage, the money. Then he changed the will and laughed. The emotional breakdown revealed raw terror mixed with obsession. The helpful secretary mask shattering completely under the spotlight. Real feeling emerged at last, bitter as the medicine she had sipped for nerves. Dr. Langley's scholarly calm slipped next when Poirot revealed the plagiarism notes linking him to the motive. His steady hands finally trembled on the mahogany desk, forehead glistening despite the fire's warmth. On Lady Constance's dry handkerchief twisted tighter, her performance of grief now secondary to the unfolding drama. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot, he sees behind the masks. The warm drawing room felt electric, rain tapping like impatient applause, while silk rustled, leather creaked, and crystal glasses stood untouched. The director method applied here with merciless clarity. The performance. Miss Evelyn wept convincingly now, handkerchief dabbing real moisture for the first time. The tell. Earlier, her hands had been steady when describing the robbery, voice never faltering on the exact details of the grove. The psychology. I recall the case of the false widow aboard the Orient Express, where grief was performed with perfect timing, yet the widow reached for her pearls too calmly. A truly grieving woman clutches nothing. Her hands remain empty with shock. This woman knew the new will existed before the body was found. Her obsession had turned lethal when Sir Basil discarded her. The truth? She and Dr. Langley conspired, but one would break first under the weight of truth. You see it now, no? The theatre crumbles. Poirot drew himself up to full height, still small, yet commanding, his voice low and precise. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice the sap, the will, the timing, all lines delivered ahead of their cue. Ah, but you say, Poirot reads too much into small gestures. Bear with me. The psychology, it is everything. We approach the final act. Have you identified the true performer? The mask had fallen. The true face emerged. Now, Chapter 6. Behind the curtain. Poirot retreated to the quiet college archives after the drawing room confrontation, where the air carried the faint scent of old leather bindings and fresh furniture wax. Polished mahogany tables stood like silent prompters under tall windows, velvet curtains drawn against the chill terrace draught that still whispered of the previous night. Strong continental coffee steamed in a silver pot, its rich aroma mingling with the sweet hothouse lilies someone had placed on the mantel. Rain pattered softly on the glass, a steady rhythm against the distant grandfather clock chiming 6. The stage had gone dark. Now came the backstage tour. Hidden connections emerged like props pulled from storage trunks. Miss Evelyn Drake's secret letters, tucked behind a false panel in the study, revealed her obsession with Sir Basil. She had typed the new will under his promise of marriage, only to be discarded for a younger actress in the College Drama Society. Kid gloves had hidden the elm sap, but the paper edges bore her typewriter's distinctive smudge. Observe, mon ami, this performance of the devoted secretary hid something far darker. The mask slips. Did you catch it? Dr. Marcus Langley's plagiarism of Sir Basil's early research surfaced next. Half-burnt notes found in the grate still carrying the faint wood smoke scent. His rough tweed jacket had brushed those same papers the night of the gala. His steady hands had fed them to the flames while the distant piano music played. Too perfect, too rehearsed, truth stumbles. Lies flow smooth. And now ask yourself, why does this scholar's alibi crumble when the timing of the second act interval is matched to his absence from the billiard room? Lady Constance's affair with Colonel Arthur Blount unfolded in a bundle of perfumed correspondence discovered in the lodge safe. Her silk gown had rustled past these very shelves many evenings, sandalwood cologne lingering long after Sir Basil's control had tightened like velvet ropes around her freedom. The Colonel's cigar smoke had often mingled with hers on the cold terrace, their performances of old friendship masking resentment at Sir Basil's power. If you are hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? Poirot touched his magnificent moustache thoughtfully. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice how loyalty performs best when it hides hate. Mr. or Philip Voss, the director, had accepted a quiet bribe to overlook the will change. A leather-bound program in his rooms held the check stub. His helpful smile had directed more than the play that night. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot. He sees behind the masks. The warm archives felt charged now, fire crackling in the small grate, while crystal decanters stood untouched, and the bitter edge of medicine lingered on the air from frayed nerves. The backstage of relationships showed its true scenery. Sir Basil had played the generous patron while pulling strings that threatened every mask in the cast. Greed performed as grief in Lady Constance's dry eyes. Ambition wore the face of scholarly calm in Dr. Langley's steady hands. Obsession hid behind Miss Evelyn's trembling shoulders. Up fear and resentment danced in the Colonel's pacing footsteps and Mr. Voss's frozen smile. The warm room grew smaller, coffee cooling as rain tapped like impatient applause and silk rustled faintly in memory. We approach the final act. Have you identified the true performer? Reflection. Every curtain in this Oxford theatre hid a motive waiting to step into the spotlight. Past secrets do not stay backstage forever. They wait for the director's cue to expose the cracks in every polished performance. Miss Evelyn's letters, Dr. Langley's burned notes, Lady Constance's perfumed correspondence, all spoke of human nature performing its oldest roles beneath the crystal chandeliers and whispering elms. Why do people wear masks even in private? Because revelation costs everything: fortune, reputation, the very identity society applauds at garden parties and college galas. Greed dresses as grief, love as indifference, fear as confidence, until the little grey cells catch the tremble in the hand or the line delivered too soon. In the Styles case, I saw a family perform devotion at every dinner while poison brewed quietly in the teapot. Each actor smiled across the polished mahogany, passed the cup with steady fingers, and spoke of loyalty with voices smooth as silk. Yet one hand trembled when the sugar was offered. One gaze avoided the widow's eyes a fraction too long. The body forgets no cue even when the face rehearses perfectly. That case taught me how the theater of crime collapses when the backstage letters surface and the hidden motives step forward under the spotlight, and the actors believed their performances flawless until Poirot pulled the velvet curtain aside. Universal truth about deception. Motives wear the most convincing costumes because they are tailored by fear and greed in the dark hours before the curtain rises. Lies require constant energy to maintain, while truth simply waits, patient as the grandfather clock in the hall. Theatrical wisdom for you, mon ami. Look behind the curtain before the final act. Watch the small props, the stained glove, the half-burnt note, the perfumed letter, because every actor eventually forgets their lines when the psychology grows too heavy. The stage may look elegant, but the real drama happens backstage, where the masks are removed and the true faces tremble. Behind every curtain, a secret. Every secret, a motive. Chapter 7. The Final Act. The cast assembled in the drawing room as the grandfather clock struck 8, its chimes echoing like the final warning bell before curtain. Crystal chandeliers tinkled softly overhead, casting warm light across polished mahogany tables and velvet curtains drawn against the chill terrace night air. The scent of strong continental coffee steamed from a silver tray, mingling with wilting hothouse lilies, faint cigar smoke, and the sharp edge of sandalwood cologne. Rain pattered on the tall windows, a steady drum roll against the crackle of fresh logs in the grate. Every actor had taken their mark. The stage was set for truth. Poirot stood before them like the director on opening night, drawing himself up to full height, still small, yet utterly commanding. He smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve, still green eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he surveyed the suspects seated in a semicircle of leather armchairs. Lady Constance in her silk gown, Dr. Marcus Langley in rough tweed, Miss Evelyn Drake twisting her kid gloves, Colonel Arthur Blount, stiff-backed, and Mr. Philip Voss, hovering near the champagne tray. Mesdames et messieurs, Poirot began, voice precise and theatrical. You have each performed for Poirot. Some truthfully, some not. Let us review the performances, shall we? He turned first to Lady Constance, whose crisp linen napkin still lay folded on her lap. Lady Constance, you played the grieving widow, but the grief, it was costume. Your dry handkerchief, your perfect knowledge of the dagger's depth before any report. These lines were delivered too early. The performance of sorrow did lack the real tears. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? The mask slips. Did you catch it? Poirot made an expressive gesture with small hands. Dr. Marcus Langley, you performed the loyal colleague, but loyalty does not hide plagiarism notes in the grate or slip away during the second act interval. Your steady hands when the piano music was timed. Too perfect, mon ami. Truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. Ask yourself, why does this scholar's alibi crumble under the smallest check? He moved to Miss Evelyn Drake, whose shoulders had begun to tremble once more. Miss Evelyn Drake, your role was the innocent secretary. Yet innocent secretaries do not type secret wills cutting out the nephew, nor do they carry elm sap on kid gloves that match the grove exactly. In the hidden letters behind the study panel spoke louder than your rehearsed sobs. Consider the psychology. What role does this young woman need to play? The tension rises. Someone will break character soon. Colonel Arthur Blount shifted in his chair, cigar smoke curling from his fingers. Colonel Blount, you played the bluff old soldier and loyal friend. But loyal friends do not accept quiet bribes or pace the billiard room while the clock runs 3 minutes slow. Your military bluffness, it was convincing. Until the footsteps on the parquet betrayed the terrace visit. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? Mr. Philip Voss's helpful smile had frozen entirely. And Mr. Philip Voss, you performed the cooperative director. Helpful, always directing attention away from the will change. Yet helpful directors do not hide check stubs in leather-bound programs or overlook a missing prop dagger from the dressing area. Bravo, but the performance, it was not convincing. Poirot paused, letting the silence stretch like a held breath before the climax. The warm drawing room felt electric, fire warmth battling the chill draft beneath the doors while silk rustled and leather creaked under shifting weight. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot. He sees behind the masks. You watch with Poirot, no? Observe how the hands tremble now that the spotlight shines. And so we come to our leading performer. Poirot's voice dropped, drawing every eye. He tilted his egg-shaped head and touched his magnificent moustache thoughtfully. Miss Evelyn Drake, you gave the most convincing performance of all. The shock, the tears, or the helpful cooperation after the body was found, magnifique. The devoted secretary, the innocent bystander, the trembling girl who knew nothing. But you made one error. One small moment when the mask slipped. He arranged the silver prop dagger replica symmetrically on the table, its blade catching the chandelier light. You mentioned the exact depth of the wound before the doctor had examined it. Only the murderer, standing over Sir Basil among the elms, could know such detail. The body, it knows the truth even when the face lies. The new will, the discarded promise of marriage, the obsession that turned to hate. These were your true lines, rehearsed in secret while the gala played on. The director method revealed the final truth. The performance. Miss Evelyn had wept convincingly in the earlier confrontation, a handkerchief dabbing real moisture at last. The tell. Yet earlier, her hands had remained perfectly steady when describing the robbery, voice never faltering on the grove details. The psychology. I recall the case of the false widow aboard the Orient Express, where grief was performed with perfect timing, yet the widow reached for her pearls too calmly. A truly grieving woman clutches nothing. Her hands remain empty with shock. This woman knew the new will existed before the body was found. Her obsession had turned lethal when Sir Basil laughed and discarded her. The truth. She struck alone among the elms, the others merely supporting players who hid their smaller sins. You see it now, Non. The theatre crumbles. Miss Evelyn's kid gloves fell to the floor as the final mask shattered. Real sobs escaped, raw and unrehearsed, nor while the others sat stripped of their roles. Lady Constance's dry eyes, now openly relieved, Dr. Langley's steady hands finally trembling, Colonel Blount and Mr. Voss staring at the carpet like actors who had forgotten every line. The psychology. It is everything. Ah, but you say Poirot reads too much into small gestures. Bear with me. The little grey cells have spoken. The performance is over. The curtain falls. The truth, she takes her bow. The final act concluded. Only truth survived the curtain call. Chapter 8. Curtain Call. The drawing room fell into a stunned hush the moment Poirot's words landed, the grandfather clock striking 8 with a final decisive chime that echoed like the last note of a tragedy. Crystal chandeliers tinkled overhead in the warm June air, their light catching the polished mahogany tables and the velvet curtains drawn tight against the chill terrace draught. The scent of strong continental coffee still steamed from the silver tray, now mingling with the heavier perfume of wilting hothouse lilies, and the faint, acrid trace of cigar smoke from Colonel Blount's forgotten cheroot. Rain continued its soft patter on the tall windows, a gentle applause that no one in the room felt like earning. The final act had ended. Only truth remained on the stage. Miss Evelyn Drake sat motionless for one heartbeat, her kid gloves lying crumpled on the parquet floor like discarded props. Then the raw sobs she had held back all evening broke free, unrehearsed and ugly, her silk blouse trembling against the leather armchair. The mask of the innocent secretary had shattered completely. Underneath it lay the true face of obsession, turned lethal, eyes wide with the terror of exposure rather than grief. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? The mask slips. Did you catch it? Poirot tilted his egg-shaped head, green eyes gleaming with quiet satisfaction as he observed the transformation. You watch with Poirot, no? Observe how the shoulders shake now, not for effect, but because the weight of the role has finally crushed her. Lady Constance rose slowly from her seat, silk gown rustling like the final curtain descending. Her dry handkerchief dropped forgotten to the table, and for the first time her eyes held real moisture, not the rehearsed tears of the grieving widow, but the quiet relief of a woman freed from velvet ropes of control. The sandalwood cologne she wore seemed lighter now, less defensive, and as she looked at Poirot with something close to gratitude. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice how her hands no longer tremble. Ask yourself, why does the widow's performance end only when the truth takes its bow? Justice had begun. A constable waited discreetly by the door, notebook open, ready to escort the leading lady away. Dr. Marcus Langley slumped forward, rough tweed jacket creaking against the chair, his once steady hands now covering his face in genuine shame. The scholarly mask of loyalty had fallen, revealing the ambitious plagiarist beneath, forehead glistening in the fire's warmth, despite the chill draft creeping beneath the doors. He muttered a half apology about the burnt notes, voice cracking like the cold marble steps outside where the body had lain. Too perfect, too rehearsed. Truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. Consider the psychology. What role does this academic need to play once the curtain falls? Poirot made an expressive gesture with small hands, smoothing an imaginary wrinkle from his sleeve. Bravo! But the performance, it was not convincing. The little grey cells, they see the man behind the scholar now. Colonel Arthur Blount stood at attention like the old soldier he truly was, cigar ash falling unnoticed onto the velvet rug. His bluffness had evaporated, leaving only the weary face of a man who had hidden resentment too long. The rough texture of his tweed felt heavier in the warm room, and he offered no further lines, only a slow nod of acceptance as the constable approached Miss Evelyn. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? The tension that had crackled through every scene now eased into something quieter, more final. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot, he sees behind the masks. Mr. Philip Voss remained near the champagne tray, his helpful director smile gone entirely, replaced by the pale, stripped expression of a supporting player caught in the wings. The leather-bound program he clutched trembled in his fingers, the check stub inside no evidence rather than prop. He spoke once, voice soft as the distant piano music that had played on the fatal night, admitting the bribe with no flourish. The warm drawing room felt smaller, charged with the sense of coffee cooling, lilies fading, and the bitter edge of medicine someone had taken for frayed nerves earlier. Fire warmth battled the chill night air seeping in, while smooth crystal glasses stood untouched, their champagne long flat and forgotten. We approach the final act. No, the final act has concluded. Have you identified every true performer? The police inspector stepped forward at Poirot's nod, handcuffs glinting coldly under the chandelier light. Miss Evelyn rose without resistance, the emotional breakdown complete, her true face bare and exhausted as she was led toward the door. Lady Constance watched with quiet dignity, Dr. Langley with bowed head, Colonel Blount with military stillness, and Mr. Voss with the hollow stare of a man whose direction had ended. Transformations settled over the cast, like new costumes, relief for some, disgrace for others, peace for none quite yet. The elegant stage of the Master's Lodge, once gleaming with Art Deco precision, he now held only the quiet aftermath of revelation. Silk rustled one last time. Footsteps echoed on parquet, and the grandfather clock ticked on, indifferent to the drama it had witnessed. Poirot surveyed the room one final time, arranging a silver ashtray and crystal decanter symmetrically on the side table before turning to the inspector. Order and method have prevailed, mon ami. The psychology, it is everything. The theatre of crime has delivered its last line. Ah, but you say, Poirot reads too much into small gestures. Bear with me. The spotlight of truth has shone on them all, and none escaped its glare. The cast stood stripped of every role, every mask removed, under the warm light of justice beginning its slow work. No applause for this performance. Only justice. Our Chapter 9. After the show, the drawing room of the Master's Lodge grew quiet in the hours after the final act. the grandfather clock striking 9 with a measured chime that seemed to mark the end of the performance. Crystal chandeliers still tinkled faintly overhead, their warm light softening across polished mahogany tables and velvet curtains, now drawn fully against the chill terrace night air. The scent of strong continental coffee had cooled in the silver tray, mingling with the heavier perfume of wilting hothouse lilies and the faint, lingering trace of sandalwood cologne from Lady Constance's gown. Rain had eased to a soft patter on the tall windows, a gentle curtain call that no one applauded. The elegant stage, once gleaming with Art Deco precision and charged with tension, now settled into peaceful stillness, but the fire's warmth the only remaining actor in the room. Miss Evelyn Drake had been led away by the constable, her kid gloves dangling empty from one wrist like forgotten props, the mask of the devoted secretary stripped away forever. Her transformation was complete. The convincing performer, who had rehearsed every sob and alibi, now walked toward justice with raw, unrehearsed tears streaking her face, obsession exposed as the true face beneath. Watch this performance carefully. Is it truth or theatre? The mask slips. Did you catch it? You watch with Poirot. None. Observe how the leading lady, once so steady in her role, now trembles without script or spotlight. The psychology of revelation had done its work. Guilt no longer needed rehearsal. Lady Constance stood by the French windows, the silk gown rustling softly as she gazed out at the elm grove, now peaceful under moonlight. Her dry handkerchief lay folded on the table, no longer part of any performance, and her eyes held genuine peace rather than the rehearsed grief of the widow. The wrongly cast villain had suffered through suspicion, her affair with Colonel Blount revealed yet forgiven in the quiet aftermath. Ask yourself, why does the widow's role end only when the true motive steps forward? Her future stretched ahead in a modest cottage near the college, society masks discarded for simple charity work and quiet reflection. The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice how her hands rest steady at last, free of the velvet robes that once bound her. Dr. Marcus Langley sat slumped in a leather armchair, a rough tweed jacket creaking as he accepted a final cup of bitter medicine for his nerves. The ambitious scholar's mask had cracked completely, plagiarism and conspiracy laid bare, yet the suffering had burned away the false loyalty. Too perfect, too rehearsed, truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. He would resign his fellowship by morning, retreating to quiet monographs in rural exile, the playwright's career ending not in triumph, but honest obscurity. Consider the psychology. What role does this academic need to play once the curtain falls and the applause dies? His steady hands, once too perfect, now showed the faint tremor of a man learning to live without rehearsal. Colonel Arthur Blount paced the parquet one last time, heavy footsteps echoing softly against the crackle of dying logs, his cigar smoke trailing thinner now in the warm room. The bluff old soldier had been stripped of resentment, the supporting role of loyal friend reduced to its true, flawed self. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? He planned a return to modest army quarters, the affair with Lady Constance acknowledged without scandal, his future one of quiet retirement beneath different elms. Every actor in this drama has a secret. Poirot, he sees behind the masks. The tension that had crackled through every scene now eased into something gentler, more final. Mr. Philip Voss remained near the champagne tray, his helpful director smile gone, replaced by the pale, stripped expression of a man whose direction had ended in disgrace. The leather-bound program, with its hidden check stub, lay open on the table like a closed prompt book. He would leave Oxford by the morning train, each seeking work in smaller provincial theatres where no one knew the Oxford Gala's fatal script. Bravo! But the performance? It was not convincing. His future indicated quiet anonymity, the supporting player learning that bribes and overlooked props carry heavier costs than any review. Poirot moved among them with quiet authority, the director who had guided the drama from audience to revelation. He arranged a silver ashtray and crystal decanter symmetrically on the sideboard, green eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he surveyed the transformed cast. The setting itself had shifted. The crime scene among the elms now lay peaceful once more, ancient trees whispering only to the wind, the theatre of wealth and academia returning to its scholarly rhythms. We approach the final act. No, the final act has concluded. Have you identified every true performer? The listener, once a passive viewer drawn into the drama, now stood as an active analyst, eyes sharpened by every missed cue and slipped mask. The director method closed the chapter with clarity. The performance. Each suspect had entered the room stripped of their roles, faces bare under the chandelier light. The tell, shoulders no longer shook for effect, hands rested without tremor, voices spoke without rehearsal. The psychology. I recall the case of the Styles poisoning, where a family performed devotion at dinner while poison brewed in the teapot. Each actor smiled across polished mahogany until the truth forced their hands to tremble. Here, the same theatre played out beneath Oxford's elms. The body knows the truth even when the face lies. The truth. Transformations complete. If futures indicated, the stage emptied of falsehood. You see it now? No. The theatre crumbles into peace. Silk rustled one final time as Lady Constance turned from the window. Footsteps echoed softly on the parquet, and the fire's warmth battled the last chill draught beneath the doors. Fresh flowers on the mantel released their fading lily scent. Coffee cups stood empty, and the bitter medicine had done its work. The elegant country house setting, once a backdrop for murder and masks, now held only resolution and the quiet promise of new beginnings. Transformations lingered in every corner, the murderer exposed, innocence freed from suspicion, the setting restored to peace. Poirot, the revealer of truth, and you, mon ami, satisfied by the curtain call. The theatre emptied. The lessons remained. May Chapter 10. Poirot reviews the performance. Hercule Poirot sat in comfort aboard the evening train gliding back to London. The carriage's polished mahogany panels and soft velvet upholstery cradling his small frame like a private box in the theatre. A cup of steaming tisane rested on the small table, its herbal scent mingling with the faint leather of his seat and the distant wood smoke from the engine. Outside the window, English countryside rolled past in twilight greens, raindrops tracing slow paths down the glass like fading applause. He adjusted a silver spoon symmetrically beside the cup, green eyes gleaming with quiet satisfaction. The drama at St. Anselm's College had concluded, yet Poirot reviewed every line in the silence of the moving stage. News of the characters' fates had reached him by telegram at the station. Lady Constance had retired to her modest cottage, finding genuine peace in charity work beneath quieter elms. Dr. Marcus Langley resigned his fellowship and now wrote obscure monographs in rural exile, the ambitious scholar transformed into a man of honest obscurity. Miss Evelyn Drake began her long sentence, the leading performer's obsession finally stripped bare in open court. Colonel Blount returned to army quarters with quiet dignity, and Mr. Philip Voss sought anonymous work in provincial theatres. The theatre emptied, but the lessons lingered in every transformed life. You watch with Poirot, no? Observe how each mask, once removed, reveals the actor's true face at last. Why do people perform rather than reveal truth? Because the mask is comfortable, mes amis. Society applauds the grieving widow, the loyal colleague, and the helpful secretary, demanding flawless roles beneath crystal chandeliers and whispering elms. To remove it is to stand naked before judgment, greed dressed as grief, love as indifference, fear as confidence. In the Oxford drawing room, every actor had rehearsed their lines. Dry handkerchiefs, steady hands, smooth alibis, until the little grey cells caught the tremble, the missed cue, the line spoken too soon. The body cannot rehearse forever. Guilt always betrays the actor with a creaking glove or a pacing foot that slows at the wrong moment. Consider the psychology. What role does each person need to play to survive the spotlight of daily life? The masks society demands grow heavier with age, tailored by pride and the terror of exposure. Lady Constance performed devotion while her affair whispered backstage. Doctor, and Langley wore scholarly calm over plagiarism. Miss Evelyn hid lethal obsession behind kid gloves and trembling shoulders. These performances exhaust because lies require constant energy, while truth simply exists, patient as the grandfather clock in the hall. In this case, the new will, the elm sap, the hidden letters, all props that force the final curtain. If you were hiding guilt, how would you perform innocence? The careful observer, and you are becoming careful, mon ami, will notice how the eyes avoid contact when the voice flows too smooth, too perfect, too rehearsed. Truth stumbles, lies flow smooth. I recall the case of the Styles poisoning, where a family performed devotion at every dinner while poison brewed quietly in the teapot. Each actor smiled across the polished mahogany, passed the cup with steady fingers, and spoke of loyalty with voices smooth as silk evening gowns. Yet one hand trembled when the sugar was offered. One gaze lingered too long on the widow's pearls. The body forgets no cue, even when the face rehearses perfectly for hours in front of mirrors. That case taught me how the theater of crime collapses when backstage motives step forward under Poirot's direction. The actors believed their performances flawless until the psychology of revelation exposed the dry eyes, the too steady hands, the line delivered ahead of its cue. Here among the Oxford elms, the same drama unfolded, only the props differed. Prop daggers instead of teacups, college gowns instead of country house linen. The psychology of revelation is simple yet profound. Truth triumphs over performance because the little grey cells do not applaud. They observe, and they remember they wait for the moment the actor forgets their lines. Guilt manifests physically. A dry handkerchief when tears are claimed, a foot tapping beneath the table when alibis are tested, a glove creaking with hidden sap. Society forces these masks, devoted wife, brilliant scholar, innocent girl, yet beneath every one the same human heart beats, trembling when the spotlight of truth grows too bright. Why truth ultimately triumphs? Because performance exhausts the soul, while honesty restores it. The theater of life continues, but Poirot directs towards the final bow where only truth remains. Watch the hands when the voice speaks, the eyes when the smile appears, the breath between rehearsed words. The actor forgets the script when the psychology grows too heavy. In every drawing room, every college hall, every garden party, the drama plays on. The tension rises. Someone will break character soon. We approach the final act. Have you identified the true performer in your own theatre of daily life? Poirot drew himself up slightly in the velvet seat, touching his magnificent moustache thoughtfully as the train whistle sounded like a distant curtain call. Theatrical wisdom for you, mon ami. You have watched this Oxford drama with Poirot. You have seen how grief can be costume, loyalty a lie, innocence the most dangerous role of all. Next time you enter a room where actors gather, observe. The stage may look elegant with its Art Deco gleam, but the real drama happens when the masks slip and the true faces emerge. The psychology, it is everything. Order and method have prevailed once more. Until the next theatre of crime, mes amis. Poirot watches always,